All right. Good morning, everyone. Call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the King County Regional Homeless Authority for Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023. This is a hybrid meeting, as are all of our meetings from this point forward. So there is a physical location as well as virtual access. I want to thank Mayor Harrell and the Seattle City Council for allowing us to use a conference room today in Seattle City Hall for the physical location. Austin, would you please call the roll?
Yes, it looks like we are having a couple people move over from attendees to panelists. Looks like some people got caught up.
Okay, well, we can attend to that, and I will wait a second while you do that and remind folks that we always start by grounding our work in our theory of change, which is if we create a homeless response system that centers people with lived experience, then we will be able to focus on responding to the needs and eliminating inequities in order to end homelessness for all. We acknowledge as well that King County is located on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples. We honor this land and its people, past and present, and we are committed to supporting organizations led by and in support of Native and Indigenous people. Austin, are you able to call the roll now?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Member Constantine?
Here.
Member McDermott?
I see.
Here.
Yeah. Member Balducci?
Here.
Member Salcedo? Member Hemphill? Member McHenry Jr.? Or sorry, McWhorter Jr.? Member Bernie?
Here.
Member Prince?
Here.
Member Backus? Member Lewis?
Present.
Member Harrell?
Here.
And Member Herbold.
Here.
We currently sit at 8. Let me double check the attendees one more time and see if there's any alternates as well of lived experience. It does not look like there's anybody waiting in attendees. We are currently at 8.
All right, so I'm going to move to the public comment portion of the meeting. While I'm doing that, Austin, as our clerk, if you could attempt to contact some of the absent board members or alternates and see if we can get one more person on so that we can achieve a quorum. At every meeting, we reserve time for public comment. If you would like to provide comments, please raise your hand in Zoom now or sign up with Austin in person, and Austin will call you in the order in which you signed up. Do we have folks signed up for public comment yet?
We do, Chair.
Okay, so and you'll alert me as soon as we get to a quorum, correct?
I will, yes.
Okay, so let us then go to public comment and just hold on for 2 seconds. We always allocate a period of time up to 15 minutes for public comment. If you wish to comment and have not already done so, raise your hand. Or again, we're a hybrid meeting, so you can sign up in person at Seattle City Hall. Each person has 1 minute to comment. We will start with any members of the public on Zoom and then move to any individuals in the room, although I'm not aware that there are any, or maybe there is one. So public comment is now open. Austin, please let us know who has signed up to comment.
Yeah, first off, we will have Andrew Caston. Let me share my screen with the timer. share. Awesome. Awesome. Andrew, you're one, not yet. Andrew, your 1 minute starts as soon as you talk.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, governing committee members. My name is Andrew Caston, and I'd like to use this minute to honor the city of Seattle and the county of King for your efforts in addressing the crisis of the unhoused. For several years, I've been on a journey of the spirit, which has most recently brought me to Seattle to experience what it's like to live unhoused. Today, I come to you with a deep appreciation and gratitude for all of the services and dignities that have been afforded me during this time. When I was in need, I found showers, shelter, food, clothing, and even medical care. These generosities have been instrumental to my survival and have been made available through efforts of countless caring individuals in both official and unofficial capacities. As a token, I have an illumination to share if anyone is willing to meet with me at some point. I'll log my contact information with the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up we have is Anitra Freeman, joining from Zoom. Anitra, if you want to unmute, test your mic, and then we'll get started as soon as you talk after that.
Thank you. You hear me?
Yep, you were.
Okay. This week, WHEEL Women in Black stood for another 20 homeless people who died outside or by violence in King County. This year's total is now 162, 32 of those women. In the same period that last year, that number was 11. It has tripled. We need action now. 2 things you can help. Add your voice to extend Seattle's winter eviction ban to include encampments. Add your voice to call the Burien City Council to accept King County's offer of $1 million and 35 modular units, make land available for a tiny house village, and shelter people. Burien has no emergency shelter now. 2 homeless women in Burien died without shelter in June alone. Without shelter, people die. You can do more. Thank you.
Thank you, Anitra. Chair, that is all we have for public comment that is signed up.
Austin, I saw that Roosevelt was attempting to join. Has he succeeded?
I have not seen or heard. Let me see if I can find. Can't see him in the attendees. Roosevelt, if you join via attendees, I can promote you. I will reach out as well.
And I also understand that Nancy Backus is just wrapping up a meeting and will be joining us presently.
Oh, perfect.
So I'm going to tell folks what we will do as soon as we're able to vote on doing it. I'm going to ask for permission to have Board Member Balducci take the gavel when I have to leave in about half an hour or so. Board Member Prince also has to leave. So the second motion that I'm going to ask for approval on is to change the agenda so that we take up the resolutions right away, right after we do the consent agenda, so that we have a quorum to do that. We will then have the 2 resolutions that the mayor of Seattle and I have proposed. And we do have some amendments, so it can get a little complicated. And those have been provided to you. And after that, we have some additional business of the body, including an update on the sub-regional plan, CEO updates, etc. So I'm just waiting. Roosevelt is putting in the chat that he would like to be added as panelist.
Roosevelt should be rejoining now.
Okay, I see him.
Perfect.
So we now have a quorum. Good to see you, sir. So we have a quorum, and I want, as I've previewed for the board members, the first motion I would ask someone move is to allow Board Member Balducci to take the gavel in my stead when I have to leave in about half an hour. Is there such a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion's approved. I'm not actually sure if we even have to vote on that, but I figured just to be safe. Second is on the agenda, we're considering the resolutions, resolutions 12 and 13 a little farther down, and we'd like to take those up immediately after the consent agenda. So this is a motion to amend the agenda to allow us to take those up immediately following the consent agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say
Aye.
no. The motion is approved. Next, we move to our consent agenda. Before us is the approval of the minutes from the February 2023 Special Governing Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay. And I should ask, since the only item on the consent agenda is the minutes, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes that anyone has identified? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Consent agenda is approved. On our amended agenda, then we will move to resolution 2023-12. And just let me scroll to it here. This was regarding the CEO Search Advisory Committee. Let us first place the motion before us. Mayor Harrell, would you move adoption of resolution 2023-12?
Yeah, I'll formally move resolution 2023-12, which is a resolution that basically establishes an advisory committee to oversee the recruitment of a CEO, and I'll speak more in depth to it in a minute.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I forgot we're not using titles, we're using names. So Bruce, would you speak to the resolution?
Yes, Dow, thank you. And bear with me a little bit, because procedurally there may be, I've told, perhaps an amendment, which I've been told is certainly friendly in nature, but I'm not sure, and I'll turn to Austin as the clerk to see if there has been an amendment to this resolution. But in short, I first wanted to thank the existing staff and management and leadership and rank and file for keeping things together in Mark's absence. We know that's a big absence. And so as we start looking for a new CEO, this resolution that's done in partnership with Dow establishes an advisory committee to oversee the recruitment of the permanent CEO of the KCRHA. I believe people have a version or an amended version of the clerk. In essence, what we have is as consistent with the interlocal agreement, the way the process will work is that the finalists will be interviewed first by the implementation board and then recommended for final interview by the governing committee. We know the significance of this position. It's a critical leader in our region trying to address this crisis. And basically the resolution before you again describes procedurally a sort of a robust engagement with and pretty efficient timeline. We understand there's an urgency to keep this work going and keep the traction going. So if there's any questions, I think the procedure in the submitted document is pretty self-explanatory, but if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer that. You see the descriptions of the committee and their responsibilities. And so the goal is to have an open, transparent, fair, robust process to find the new CEO, and this resolution presents that.
And thank you. I'm proud to co-sponsor this resolution with you. This group identified in this resolution as strong diversity of perspectives and experience, and I'm confident they'll oversee a strong recruitment process. The goal is to ensure the recruitment firm that's ultimately selected brings to the full implementation board and the governing committee 2 to 5 qualified applicants for consideration and approval. I have a question for the clerk. The motion that Bruce has placed before us, does that include the amended language, or do we need to have a motion to amend?
You will have to have a motion to amend. The amended language is in yellow. I made it so it's a little bit more poppier. And it's just all addition.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the amendments or the amended language is as follows. Responding to feedback from Councilmember Herbold, language in the third recital has been edited for clarity regarding process and the role between the governing committee and the implementation board, and adding a recital, which is now recital 5, to speak to the selection process of a recruiting firm, and adding the term key labor partners to the stakeholder groups identified in section 1B, and adding in section 5 the option for additional meet and greet opportunities for the final candidates with the stakeholder groups identified in section 1B. Is that an accurate description of the amended language? Yes. Okay, so I would then entertain a motion to amend the motion that's in front of us to include that amendatory language. Is there such a motion? Councilmember Herbold.
Yes,
Sorry,
thank
not
you.
Councilmember Herbold, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the quick work of the mayor's office in incorporating these suggested amendments for input. Thank you for including them. So moved.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The amendments adopted, you have before you now the amended motion 2023-12, setting up the CEO search process. Is there any closing discussion? All right, I want to once again thank Bruce, who happens to be the mayor of Seattle, for leading the work to put this together, and Lisa for your very thoughtful amendments. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Absolutely. It's for the passage of resolution 2023-12. Member Constantine?
Aye.
Member McDermott? Member McDermott? I will come back.
Yeah,
I will come back. Member Balducci?
Aye.
Member McWhorter Jr.?
Aye.
Member Bernie?
Aye.
Member Prince?
Aye.
Member Backus? If she's here. Member Lewis?
Yes.
Member Harrell?
Aye.
Member Herbold?
Yes.
And now Member Green.
Yes.
Let's just hold the dais open here for a second.
Yeah.
Well, Member McDermott is able to reconnect from the other side of the planet. He's worried he may be in the attendees, not the panel.
Let me see. Yep, looks like it. Waiting on him to approve. Member McDermott, there should be a prompt on your device saying promote to panel, accept the invitation to be a panelist.
There we go. Sorry about that. Aye.
All right. And could you then announce the vote?
Absolutely, Chair, I have heard 10 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions.
All right, by your vote, resolution 2023-12 as amended is adopted. We'll now move to resolution 2023-13. This is establishing the governance review subcommittee. I would like first to entertain a motion to bring to place resolution 2023-13 before us.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. This is another that we've put together in an attempt to include everyone in the conversation about the way forward. And I'd like to take the first opportunity to speak here and then perhaps turn to Board Member Harrell. This would establish a temporary governance review subcommittee, and the subcommittee would be tasked with a high-level review of KCRHA's governance structures. We're now 3 years into this groundbreaking organization, and I think Co-Chair Harrell and I feel it's time for a small group of board members to convene and review the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization and areas of opportunity for improvement. This unprecedented regional authority has been an experiment in turning theory into practice, and I think I speak for every board member here when I say that while we've had many successes, there is still room for improvement and growth. This subcommittee involves our current co-chairs, representatives from all 4 caucuses, and current and former implementation board leadership. This group will need to hit the ground running so that recommendations can be delivered to both boards in time to inform the ongoing leadership transition. But more importantly, provide opportunity to review where we've been and, as I said, where we're going next. Board Member Harrell, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, sorry, a little slow on the draw there. And I could just be piling on the points you just made, but I just want to make it very clear that from the city of Seattle's perspective, the issue for us is very simple. How can we be a better partner, a better leader, a better follower? How do we use our resources and lessons learned in our research in other cities on other strategies that are working to help the RHA fulfill their mission? We are very proud, all of us, that we were able to pass a 5-year strategic plan, which I think in how we sort of bumped along to got to it, I think was a good process, that we were candid, honest, transparent, and I think we could use that spirit moving forward for this this look and evaluation on how we can make 2023 this year, next year, and the years after even more successful. And again, in my first resolution, I said I wanted to thank the staff and the volunteers and the stakeholders and those that are and the advocates for their work, because I think we're all trying to do the right thing, which are to shelter and treat people. And so again, this resolution that I think we are advancing gives us some structure to get there, and I'm very supportive of it. There is a slight amendment to a section 4 that I think was changed, and I'll ask Austin if that, I think that had gotten to it, everything, and I could explain that slight amendment at the right time, and I don't know if that's now, but those are the only opening remarks I wanted to make.
So there are in fact 2 amendments, if I'm not mistaken, Austin, and there's we'll take them in order. So the first one, which in a moment after I describe it, I'll move adoption, responds to feedback from board member Balducci. And the language in section 1 would be edited for clarity regarding principles and scope of work for the governance review subcommittee. Changes include noting that the subcommittee's work is, quote, in service of obtaining better outcomes for people experiencing homelessness, and adds best practices as a consideration to inform recommendations, and clarifies that recommendations should include improvements to governance and agency operations. Is that an accurate description of the language, Austin? Can't hear you.
That is, and those are highlighted in yellow.
Okay. So that's the first amendment, and I think we'll take that up now, and then we'll move to the amendment to section 4 that Board Member Harrell was just describing. So Board Member Balducci, I guess I'd turn to you and see if you wanted to move adoption of that amendment.
I move adoption of the amendment.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Okay. And Board Member Balducci, did you have anything further to add?
I would just say that I'm sure all of this was inherent in the intent of the motion as drafted. I just offered it to make it more explicit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye,
Aye.
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 and those opposed say no. All right, that amendment is adopted. Board Member Harrell, would you like to move adoption of the amendment to section 4, and then either you or I can describe it?
Yeah, I'd like to move the newly proposed language in section 4. That section is entitled Governance Review Subcommittee Duration.
Second. So can you tell us a little bit about what this says
Sure.
about the duration of the subcommittee?
Yeah, the original draft that, at least on the city side, that we floated around, or folks, is we have a sense of urgency in trying to do the work. Looking at the schedules for August, I know the city council, they have their annual break for the last week of August. We thought putting ourselves behind the gun for early September might be a little tough. They have some other very meaningful legislation they are considering. So we thought we needed to widen that a little bit, but still keep our sense of urgency, number one. And then number two, because these are recommendations, this review subcommittee does not have the right to pass anything. We thought some ongoing work that we should keep it ongoing to the extent they have final recommendations, and that may take another month or 2 or 3. And so so the new language basically allows this committee to give some preliminary recommendations in early September, sort of keeps that, but also allows them some flexibility to continue meeting the rest of the year and coming up with final recommendations. And again, they're just recommendations and then disbanding. So we thought that was a prudent amendment.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The amendment is adopted. You have before you resolution 2023-13 as amended on final passage. Further discussion? Well, I want once again to thank Board Member Herbold. I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Lisa.
Oh, yes.
Just a question. And it might be covered here. I'm just not seeing it. Just wondering whether or not there's any sort of a feedback loop with the governance review subcommittee, whether or not there's an intent for that subcommittee to consult with RHA staff and contracted providers or other stakeholders in the work. Just that would be helpful to understand.
Dad, did you want me to take a stab at that, or?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for the question, Lisa, and it's a good question. Quite candidly, hadn't thought through that part of it, but I don't see how we could really make our recommendations without that feedback. So I think that's a good suggestion. I'll go on record by saying we welcome that. Because they're just recommendations, they'd get them, and I suppose they would not be shy in giving feedback, but it'd be nice to come up with joint recommendations. So I anticipate that process will allow some feedback along some, as you call it, a loop along the way. That's certainly the intent.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Roosevelt.
Sorry, Dow. Yes, I had a question about the, I think it was the first document, the first page of the document, which we were talking about the partners who had a hand in it. And I thought there was a list of names, and I think I maybe it was a typo or I missed it. Not this particular one. It's the earliest. It's an earlier one that had the list of names like We Are In and other organizations that were helping to craft it. And I didn't see anything from lived experience on that particular piece. I'm just wondering. We didn't get a chance to review this document because our emails have been down since last week. So any documents that have come through, we didn't get a chance to review that, just so we would have brought that up if it was a typo or what that was. It was just a question from that side. Also, I didn't see the COC board listed anywhere on here, or were they just not part of that?
I'll take a shot down at the first question about lived experience. So Roosevelt, there's a standalone sentence on the first resolution that says, I'll just read it. It says, at a minimum, one member of the search advisory committee must possess lived experience of homelessness. So there's a call out for that demographic. On the CLC issue, I can't speak to that one. I know that again, there's 13 kinds of organizations listed. I can read them all out to see if the COCs at all captured from there, but would that be helpful? I don't see the COC specifically called out.
I see Lamont's hand up. I think perhaps since we're now discussing the previous motion that's already been adopted, we should complete our discussion of 2023-13, and then we can have that discussion if folks are willing to move forward here, and we can double back with the rest of this conversation. So on 2023-13, is there further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my hand raised. I did have a comment.
Lamont, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dow.
Sorry, I just assumed you were raising your hand on that other thing that we're going to discuss later.
It's on this current one.
Okay.
No, I'm really glad that we're doing this. And I think to Roosevelt's point, that I recommend that we do include the COC board, because it seems like in this overall governance structure, there's the governance board, the implementation board, and the COC board. And the COC, they provide, oversight regarding the HUD dollars that is quite significant. So it may be good to include them as a part of this overall process.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Absolutely. Member Costin?
Aye.
Member McDermott?
He's reconnecting again. Keep going.
Member Balducci?
Aye.
Member McWhorter Jr.? Member McWhorter Jr., I did not report a vote.
Aye.
Member Bernie?
Aye.
Member Prince?
Aye.
Member Backus, if present?
Aye.
Member Lewis?
Yes.
Member Harrell?
Aye.
Member Herbold?
Yes.
Member Green?
This may be inappropriate, but I have a point of clarification. I guess I perhaps should have made a motion that the COC board be included in this process. And
Okay.
so I
So you're right. It is out of order right now, but we can have that discussion once we've completed this vote. Do you want to keep calling the roll, Austin?
Yeah, Member Green?
yes.
Member McDermott? Are you the present?
I don't think he's here.
Okay.
He's
No
in the
worries.
attendees again. Have we reached 9 votes?
We have 10.
Okay. So we will record board member McDermott's earnest efforts to attend and vote on this and close the ballot.
Okay, 10 yeas, 0 no's, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. Let's continue our discussion then. And I apologize, Board Member Balducci, for having to leave right in the middle of this part of the thing. Leave you holding the gavel. Oh, you brought your own gavel. That's excellent.
I come prepared.
So I will take my leave of you and wish everyone well. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion has passed. And there's a remaining discussion, proposal to include the Continuum of Care Board as a member of this subcommittee. There's no formal action listed, but I wonder, colleagues, if we couldn't just have a discussion about that question, see how people feel about it, and if they tend to agree with the proposal, we could give a head nod direction to staff to work in that direction and then formally approve it after noticing it if necessary.
So, new chair, Claudia, may I take a shot at it?
Yeah, new chair Claudia, go ahead,
Yeah.
Member Bruce. Yeah, we're all friends here.
On behalf of at least I'll speak from the executive side, we certainly welcome a COC member or anyone with lived experience in this work. There was no intent to exclude the COC or anyone with lived experience. And so, I don't want to have to revote everything, but I want to go on record saying, at least from the executive side, we welcome that input and that participation. And however we make that happen, I'm flexible. I believe in substance over form. So that's my position.
Yeah.
And I actually want to apologize for if anyone thought that there was, it's more of an oversight than anything else. But when I looked at these documents, I thought we were very astutely trying to always capture people with lived experience. And so I received Lamont's feedback positively.
Thank you. Nancy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one, are we on -12 or are we on -13 right now?
So we are talking about the motion to -13 to on the governance structure special committee.
Okay, I thought we were going back to 12 because that was where some of the questions were earlier, but I was just going to say, because there's quite a possibility that we could find a COC from the representation that's already listed, but I will.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let me just suggest, Austin, can you help by being the liaison here between the board and the staff, and just take the suggestion that it seems as being positively received by the board to include a designated member of the COC, and let's figure out how to make that happen. Lamont, do you want to add something?
Yeah, no, thank you, Claudia. And the only reason why I bring that up is because in the overall governance, sometimes things can be so siloed, and the COC board does play a significant role with the HUD funding.
Yep.
And don't quote me on this, but I think it's over $61 million. And so to have the governance implementation board and COC board be working collaboratively and trying to have a more effective structure, I think it'll help us to have more of a cohesive system and a shared consciousness.
I think it's a really good idea. I support it. The mission of this subcommittee is going to be to make the KCRHA work better, and having more integration between all of the important structures of our agency is going to be critical for us to succeed. So thank you for that suggestion. I saw head nods around. We're going to figure out how to make it happen. I don't quite understand the technical requirements, but I think Board Member Bruce was right that we might not need to make it super formal. We might be able to just go ahead and do it. So, but please report back to us if you need anything from the board in that regard. Are people ready to move on in the agenda at this point? Any further comments? Lamont, did you still have your hand up, or was it up again?
No, I'm so sorry. I feel like
okay, no worries.
I nagged, but I think Mayor Backus's earlier point, and the point that Roosevelt brought up, is that on the selection committee, the list of organizations that would participate, I don't think I think in keeping with the spirit of the ILA, because there's the Lived Experience Coalition, but there are a lot of other wonderful lived experience groups out there like Share Wheel, Nicholasville, others, that maybe we keep with the spirit of the ILA language and have the Coalition of Lived Experience there as in regards to some of the organizations that were listed in that first one. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I just ask a clarifying question? Are you asking for us to have discussion about expanding the list of people who were on the subcommittee for the hiring of the CEO now?
No, ma'am. It's not.
Okay.
It's not the list of people. It's the organizations that would be engaged.
Oh, I see.
Yes, that we would engage. Lived experience coalitions and groups.
Yeah. That also sounds like a very good idea, and also sounds like something that can be embraced in the implementation. I don't think you'd need motion language in order to do that. So let's, Austin, second follow-up item, please. And if you all could just report back to the board on those two items in between meetings, I know that I would appreciate it, and I'm sure we all would. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else on either of these items? Now, these were moved up in the agenda due to the need to have a quorum. Thank you for everybody who was able to hang in so that we could take our two action items. And now we're going to go back up the agenda to, I believe, where we left off was CEO updates. And if that is correct, pause for a moment to be corrected. We voted on the consent agenda, so that would leave us at CEO updates. All right. If our acting CEO, Helen Howell, is with us, I am going to give her the floor. Are you here, Helen?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Nice to see everybody. I want to lead off with a thank you again to this board and to our community for your support of the 5-year plan. With the plan in place, we now have a shared guide toward reducing unsheltered homelessness in our region, and we appreciate your support. We've also wrapped up the effort to relocate people who had been placed in the LEC Hotel Shelter Program. That was a 3-month collaboration with funding provided by both King County and by the state of Washington. And with full community support, we were able to move 53 people into permanent housing and 122 individuals into emergency shelter. I want to thank our partners, including all of the outreach workers involved, our systems advocates, the housing and shelter providers, people who helped with food and transportation, and all of the community nonprofits working in Kent and Renton who stepped up to help. Partners in the effort included PDA, the Urban League, Salvation Army, REACH, Recovery Navigators, Peer Kent, Neighborhood House, REWA, Catholic Community Services, DESC, the YMCA, Mary's Place, and Destiny's First Transportation Services. Staff with these organizations rearranged their schedules, worked overtime, and shifted resources and priorities to address this unique situation. Also, additional supportive services were provided by the King County Library System, the Emergency Feeding Program, Essentials First, SIWA, Spice Bridge, United Way of King County, Renton Lions Club, and the Renton Nourishing Network. We also received generous offers to help from Hope Link, Project Feast, For Tomorrow, Farmer Frog, and Health Point. I'd just note also that we heard from many of these nonprofits and service providers that the experience improved their skills in coordination and communication, and that they walked away feeling better equipped to work together in the future. This is a very positive development for our system, so it's nice that it had that additional outcome. Now that the LEC Hotel project has wrapped up, the System Advocates team is resuming its focus on downtown Seattle. They are deploying in the field, enrolling more transient individuals who are dispersed and not living in encampments. I'd also like to just give you a brief update on some of the work we're doing on RHA operations. As we work to improve all of our internal processes, we're engaged with partners at the City of Seattle and King County to bring fresh eyes to our operational workflows and project management. We've also hired an interim CFO and HR director, and we've filled one of the Deputy Chief Program Officer positions. As interim CEO, my priority is to ensure that the KCRHA has the capacity to make the system changes necessary to implement the 5-year plan, all while ensuring that our service provider partners and people experiencing homelessness both have their voices heard. We know that this work is urgent, but we also know that it's complex and it takes time. By working together, we can push each other to do better and move closer to a community where every person can have a roof over their head. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all good news. Appreciate you. Is there any comment or question? Lamont, please go ahead.
Well, I feel like I'm being very talkative today. I just want to, on behalf of the LEC, to really thank King County Regional Homeless Authority for their work and stepping up to the plate, the amazing system advocates and our providers. And I think it really demonstrates that, wow, we can really house people really fast, right? The situation that happened was very unfortunate. There are a lot of lessons learned, but throughout this hoteling program, the LEC helped to house over 400 folks. We had a very harsh winter this year, and we had a record number of homeless deaths. And so many, many lives were saved. And so we have so much gratitude for King County Regional Homeless Authority and their amazing work. And one thing that we want to caution people against is, there's an auditor that is currently doing an audit to look at all facets of what happened and all the partners that were involved, not from a position of blame and shame, but a position of how can we learn and grow from this. And so there's been a lot of information in the media and other sources. And so I just want to caution people to pause and hold off on judgment until you read that audit report, because the LEC has had a significant hit in its a lot of reputational damage. And so I beg the community, I beg the leaders at this table to please hold off on judgment, please hold off on the things that you're hearing in the media until you read that unbiased and objective report. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that comment. Do you have a sense of when we'll hear back from the auditor? Does anybody know?
Yes, that I believe their report should be done mid-August.
Very good. So we'll look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the CEO report? All right, I am not seeing any. Now, continuing on with the, let's call it healing of our agenda. We had to move into action very quickly, as was noted in the comments, because we had a fragile quorum. And in order for us to take any votes this month, we needed to go do that, but we did cut off public comment. Public comment is allocated on the agenda for 15 minutes, and we used 2 of those minutes. So we have 13 more minutes for public comment. I'm going to reopen the public comment for those who are still waiting. And just as a reminder, I think we ask people to raise your hand if you haven't signed up in person. If you're on the Zoom call, please click the raise hand function. Each person will have 1 minute to comment. We ask that the comments be related to today's agenda. And then, I don't know if there are more people in the room, but I'm going to leave it up to you to manage the logistics, Austin, and let's continue with public comment now, please.
Yeah, we do not have anybody here in the city of Seattle. City Hall, if anybody would like to speak, raise their hand. I know it was, there we go, perfect. Perfect. Tamara, you should be allowed to speak. If you want to unmute, test it, and then I will actually, let me share my screen while you test.
Awesome, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and then your 1 minute will start as soon as you talk.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Tamara Bauman. I am a housing advocate as well as a Continuum of Care board member. And I am imploring the governing committee to incorporate or include the COC board in major decisions. I also want you all to know that sweeping and criminalization of homeless folks is counter to our mission of ending homelessness. And it actually shortens lives, and the blood of our unhoused neighbors would be on your hands. And so I'm cautioning you to not do that anymore. And to realize that the NOFO, the 2023 NOFO for this year, is actually encouraging local jurisdictions to partner with their public officials to stop the criminalization of homelessness and to preserve the lives and livelihoods of people who work with these populations every day. And that's my ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Zoom that would like to give public comment, please raise your hand now. If not, I'm seeing no more, Chair.
All right, just let me give it a few more seconds in case anybody's struggling to find the raise hand button, but I am also not seeing anyone. So at this point, we will close public comment. Thank you all, everyone who came and gave public comment. It is always valuable, and your comments are taken into consideration as we make our decisions here at the board. So we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and share your thoughts and experiences. We have already voted on resolutions 2023-12 and 2023-13. So that brings us to the sub-regional plan update. And I believe we have our sub-regional manager, Alexis Mercedes Rink, here to give us a presentation. Welcome, Alexis.
Wonderful. Good morning, all. I'm going to share my screen and get us going into our presentation. I hope everyone has been enjoying summer and staying cool. For the record, again, my name is Alexis Mercedes Rink, Director of Subregional Planning and Equitable Engagement, representing our amazing subregional planning team, including Abby Anderson, Mallory Van Abemat, and Sparrow Eder Carlson, here to present on our progress that we've been making to develop our 7 subregional implementation plans. And so as we get started, I'd like to take a moment again to celebrate our now finalized 5-year plan and to clarify that this gives us as an agency some guardrails to proceed in developing operational work plans and subregional plans in alignment with the larger 5-year plan. In the 5-year plan, there are 77 key actions to be taken up over the next 5 years. And within that, our team has identified with community partners that about 30 of those need to be tailored to each subregion in order to implement them appropriately. That is where subregional plans come in. It really seeks to answer the question, what does it mean to implement the 5-year plans in each of our 7 subregions? The remainder of those key actions are identified to be standardized. This means that while we may be engaging in something subregionally, our goal is to attempt to standardize that action system wide. And these actions will primarily be taken up through operational work plans. As a refresher on our subregions, we have 7 identified subregions in King County: Seattle, North King County, East King County, Snoqualmie Valley, South King County, Southeast King County, and Urban Unincorporated King County. We have made progress in formalizing our partnerships with the 5 North King County cities of Bothell, Kenmore, Lake Forest Park, Shoreline, Woodinville, as they have signed into an agreement with KCRHA, and we now administer their funding for homeless services, and we are very grateful for their partnership. And as we continue to engage for developing subregional implementation plans, we are circling back to many of the folks engaged in 5-year planning processes. This includes our subregional tables like the Eastside Homelessness Advisory Committee, the South King County Homeless Action Committee, the North King County Coalition on Homelessness, Snoqualmie Valley Healthy Community Coalition, as well as our city partners and the system partners across the county representing sectors such as healthcare, emergency responders, schools that participated in last year's system partners workshops, while also expanding to our reach to reach out to new system partners to better inform how we can tailor to subregions. Now, some of the content you can expect to see in sub-regional implementation plans will be an in-depth gaps and strengths assessment looking at elements of our system by sub-region, such as how many beds or rooms are available in each sub-region, who is served by those programs, what kind of additional services do those programs offer, how do people connect with those services, and looking also at how our severe weather systems operate across each sub-region. Some of the other content you can expect to see is a description of our regional investments. While KCRHA is a funder of a number of programs serving people experiencing homelessness, we recognize that there are many other investments going into our homelessness response system, from city human services grants to city-based outreach staff, then also looking at philanthropic partners investments, faith-based support, and other forms of community support. And this section would really be characterizing what those investments look like. With all of that grounding in data and information related to services and funding, the next section of the plans will be focused on the actual actions to be taken up. And as I stated at the beginning of this presentation, there are about 30 key actions from the 5-year plan that need to be taken up for sub-regional implementation. When we group these 30 by topic area, we arrive at 6 topic areas for consideration: severe weather, capacity building, outreach, strategies serving families with children, youth and young adults, and also looking at temporary housing and shelter expansion and development. Each of these will have a section within this chapter that will outline the activities, or essentially the plan for implementing work in each of these areas. And this chapter would then conclude with a table that lays out how the 5-year plan activity, what the 5-year plan activity is, what a year 1 outcome would be for that subregion, what topic it concerns, what level of information or what level of impact it would have, and who are our lead entities. So a draft example that I have here on this slide concerns severe weather. And so within the 5-year plan, we have as a key action for years 1 and 2, I believe it's 1-AX, to coordinate with faith-based communities to identify untapped physical spaces to be used for severe weather shelters. An example, year 1 outcome, perhaps for North King County, could look like identify and establish at least one space for severe weather shelter that can accommodate X number of people. The topic of that is severe weather. And then we have this impact column here that refers to the 3 levels as described in the 5-year plan. As a refresher, those 3 levels are a service provider, network of services, and system-to-system connections. And so this one was identified as having an impact to those system-to-system connections. And the final column identifies who are our lead entities doing that work. So the idea being we would have this succinct table that would serve as a work plan and something that we as partners track our progress on, revisit consistently to keep us focused on what are the key actions we need to be working on together. And as we've been developing this work in process, we've been engaging with councils across the region to inform our approach and get guidance on the level and type of information to include in these plans. And to date, we have engaged 11 regional councils this year, with a number of others lined up. And we intend to circle back before the end of the year with draft sub-regional plans for feedback. And with that, as we've been engaging councils, while they've had a number of questions for us as KCRHA staff, we have been coming with questions of our own, such as what you see here on this slide, questions such as, what do you want to see in these sub-regional plans? What level of guidance would be useful? How would you like to stay informed or involved? And also soliciting their input on key stakeholders within their community that we should be engaging. So today, I'd like to put these questions before you all for feedback as well. But with that being said, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear the responses you may have for the questions on the screen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Comments or questions on the sub-regional plan? Board Member Bruce.
Thank you. Let me try to lower this hand down before I forget. I always screw up on that part. Lower hand. Okay. Alexis, thank you for your presentation. This is very exciting, and I could tell a lot of thought went into it. I just have some clarifying questions, but it does excite me, this sub-regional strategy. And I do apologize in advance if there were materials that I could have read in preparation that I just didn't have the opportunity to. So the 7 sub-regions, I assume these are geographic regions and the totality of them are the King County. And did I miss was there a map or something to describe these 7 regions? Because I don't know what regions, what they are. Has that been decided yet?
Yes, those were defined earlier on in the process. We haven't revisited them before the boards and committees in a little bit, but happy to provide a full breakdown with which cities fall within which subregions.
So is the city of Seattle a separate sub-region, or are they just contiguous to other regions, or how does the city of Seattle work?
The city of Seattle is a separate subregion and has an assigned subregional planner.
So they're one of the 7 is just the city of Seattle.
Correct.
Okay. And then to the extent you're engaging with the faith-based communities on separate strategies that the city of Seattle is working on, we're also engaging with faith-based communities. And my guess would be it's going to be similar kinds of work. So this really isn't a question. I just want to make sure that we are coordinating with you because we might be able to save money when we're asking, basically, I know our strategy with faith-based communities, we're diligently work trying to engage. And so we could be not coordinating as well as we should. So I don't know that's occurring, but I'm going to ask my staff to make sure we're coordinating with you, what organizations you're using and what's the substantive work they're doing.
Fantastic. Happy to work with your team to make sure we're coordinated.
Thank you. Oh, my last question, third bite at the apple here. You mentioned earlier in your presentation that you were very excited, as am I, about reaching some agreements with some new cities. And I don't know, I've just read maybe here or there an article or so, but are those cities, are they also bringing in money, funding?
The 5 North King County cities, we are administering their homelessness service dollars, yes. So we are administering to their local service providers.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Lamont.
Thank you, Claudia. Amazing work as usual. Alexis, your team does such a great job. And I just really appreciate the way that you've really incorporated lived experience voice and seeing the way that you all do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a couple of comments on the topic areas. I noticed that there's unaccompanied youth and young adults and families and children, which is excellent. But I think that we should include single adults because that's the most impact regarding visible homelessness. And our community has compassion fatigue and they want to see less visible homelessness. And so I think that could help. And single adults tend to be missed, right? And then the other is veterans. And I think that's a low-hanging fruit for us because that's VA dollars. And I was in a meeting recently and there's tons of HUD-VASH dollars in our community that is not being used on pace, right? And it's not to knock our local VA, our HUD-VASH program, they're phenomenal. But I'm always shocked when I see veterans that are experiencing homelessness. And so how can we work better with the VA system to leverage significant dollars there, both with SSVF and HUD-VASH? And then the third thing, I think that we need to include prevention, right? Because more, the people don't realize this, but the homelessness system has been doing a better and better job at housing people. So the number of people that are being housed have increased for some time. But what's happening is we have higher numbers of people falling into homelessness. So we're going to have to go more upstream, right? And we know what works. Like there was a report that came out in partnership with the Way Home, Washington, and the Office of Homeless Youth, that young people that had an inpatient behavioral health stay had a higher likelihood of homelessness. Well, let's do some screening before they exit so they don't fall into homelessness, right? So how could we begin to work with some of the systems that contribute the largest inflow into homelessness and begin to slow that down? And then the last thing, with the pandemic aid winding down, we're going to have to really think about that more because that's now creating new inflows, right? So we're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to be innovative. And yeah, so anyways, thank you.
Okay, Board Member Lisa.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to thank you for the specific focus that you're bringing to severe weather planning. The rate of climate change is outpacing our usual strategies, and we need to shift strategies to serve people and to do so in a way that is spread geographically to where people live. Often, historically, those severe weather resources have been somewhat centrally located, and I really appreciate the geographic dispersal. I think it's incredibly important.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the sub-area planning? I will add mine. I really look forward to, as you dive in to this next phase of sub-area planning, getting for my sub-area, as I'm sure everybody will feel for their sub-areas, the sort of detail of who you're including, what meetings are upcoming. I'm sure that we will have some suggestions for people who should, or groups that should be included, and topics to be discussed. I would personally love to engage in some of the meetings in my area. And I want to be mindful that although I represent a particular district on the King County Council, the King County Council covers all of King County, so we should be keeping an eye on all of the sub areas as part of our work. So we look forward to you keeping us in the loop, and your team, Alexis, on how this is rolling out, the who, the where, the details of it all. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I would just like to ask if there's anything else for the good of the order that any board member would like to bring up here. I'm not seeing anything. So I want to thank everyone for a great meeting. Thank you for making it easy for me as the temporary replacement chair. And thank you for all of the action and discussion we had today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I don't know why we have to vote to adjourn, but we are now in fact adjourned. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank
See you.
you.
next time.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Claudia. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
team.
Well, did you?
Bye-bye.
Bye.